So Joe, Mark is in Asia. Can you believe that? I mean, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I was laughing when I saw. I didn't know, I knew that I was receiving the call up from the minor leagues, and super excited. And thank you for this opportunity. But I didn't think to ask where's Mark, and then I saw on Facebook he posted that he was flying Cathay Pacific Business Class, which apparently was not what he was originally supposed to fly. He got moved or whatever. But the man's in Asia. I saw him reply to someone's Facebook post about being in Singapore or Bangkok and was like, "Is this your first time?" And he was like, "Yes." And I was like, I think it's this dude's first time in Asia, period, not just in Bangkok or Singapore.
Yeah, the continent will never recover, but it is his first time in Asia, and he was supposed to fly Singapore Airlines, and he'll talk about this all next week, both ways. And then his flight got canceled, and he got put on Cathay out to Asia, and then he ended up having to skip Singapore on the beginning, but he got there on the end. And yeah, he's posted some pictures from hawker centers and from the gardens by the bay. So he's doing a lot. I haven't seen the Facebook pictures. I'm trying to stay a little detached so I can explore all of it when he comes back and hear about all of the adventures. I'm sure it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, if I can make a request, don't put me on waivers until after that episode. I would love to hear. It's like the first episode of the old podcast that we ever recorded, or one of the first episodes when he took Cathay Business. I feel like I need to be back there for this. I heard that they weren't stocking any soy sauce. He said they weren't stocking any soy sauce on that flight. I don't believe that, so we'll have to see next week.
Yeah, they knew he was coming and they got rid of all of it. Yeah, go back and listen. One of our earliest things was his first Cathay experience ever, and he was doing the JFK to Vancouver route. And yeah, soy sauce on the rice. Yeah, it was a great experience. One of the better stories ever in the history of MTM Travel.
Indeed, indeed.
Even though it wasn't called that back then, Joe, but that's okay.
We understand. It's a rebrand. We get it. We get it.
So you're not in your usual studio today because you are in New Jersey, but you've been hanging out in the New York area and hanging out with family over New Year's.
Yeah, we left on Sunday, December 22nd, and today is Thursday, January 2nd. And so we've been down here for a long time. We spent a few nights in the Poconos. So again, missing Mark because he's going to make a joke about heart-shaped jacuzzis and stuff like that in the Poconos. And I took my kids skiing for the first time. We only went for one day. This is all I'll say about the skiing. Aside from the fact that I still have marks on my legs because the ski boots like just so tight, and apparently my feet are so fat now. But my main comment about skiing is it's just like Disney World. I know we might talk about Disney a little bit later. Don't go for one day, or if you go for one day, it is the most cost ineffective thing. It basically, my joke was it costs as much as going a day to Disney World, except for the chicken fingers at this ski place was more expensive. We only went for one day. My kids took lessons, and then I skied with them a little bit on the bunny slope. Apparently, 15 years later, I still remember how to ski and was like riding a bike. And so, yeah, we spent some time in the Poconos. The nicest house that my sister has ever found, and she rented it on Airbnb. And so I know there have been a lot of negative Airbnb stories this year in 2024, and I'm still not a huge fan, but it was a great house. So shout out to my sister for getting that. I do have one negative about the Airbnb, though, but I'll give you a chance to comment on skiing or anything that you might like first.
Well, I think I've said on this show before, I'm too afraid to ski. I'm afraid I'm going to kill myself, so I haven't done it, but I do want to do like a winter vacation.
Now that we're like in our 40s, like I don't recommend anyone in their 40s to learn how to ski. I only did it because I knew how to in the past, but my brother-in-law's like, he's like, I'm 45 years old. Why am I going to bother learning how to ski now if I haven't learned yet? I'm just going to be falling down the mountain.
But I think it'd be cool to hang out at a ski resort. And your point about the cost of travel and stuff like that, isn't that like the case with so much stuff? You spend tons of points or money on an airplane ticket to go somewhere, and you know, the longer you can stay, the better value you can generally get. Transport is so expensive. I mean, that is the truth about travel, is getting someplace is so much in the lodging. When you're going through all that expense to go skiing and teach them and all that, you know, I can see staying a little bit longer. But the big question is, you only did one day. Did they want to do more?
Yeah, they did actually. And I was considering, even though, again, it was going to be such a, like, it would have been smarter to buy a 2-day ticket and all that, but it ended up raining the rest of the time we were there. We were only there for 4 nights, and so it rained the rest of the time. So we just hung out in the house. Like I said, it was a really great house. They had a lot of fun. So the one negative about this house is I got back to New Jersey and my wife and I booted up Netflix to try to watch it, and apparently, and then I was like, where are my Netflix profiles? I don't know like how you would feel if one of your um, streaming profiles was gone, but like all my search history was gone. And I joked with my sister that now no one will have to know that I watch Love Is Blind, which is not true. I don't watch it, but really, it's pretty frustrating. I'm still not completely over it yet because I need to like retrain Netflix's algorithm. And what happened was my sister, without telling me, logged us into Netflix at the house, and then she told the guy who owned the house to like log us out, and he must have deleted our profiles or something because he didn't delete our account. And then, I'm like, dude, why didn't you just tell me? I would have logged us out, right? But because of that, yada yada yada. Now we're building up our Netflix algorithm from scratch.
That is the most 2025 thing to say, to be upset because your algorithm got reset. Maybe that's a
It's
good
like
thing.
10 years. It's like
Yeah,
10
exactly.
years.
Maybe it's time to like just a fresh start with your viewing. Imagine all the things you're going to find now because you're going to reset the algorithm and it's going to go in a different direction for you. You're a different person than you were 10 years ago. So it's an exciting adventure.
Glass half full, Shawn. I like it. I like it. But anyway, just a reminder, log yourself out of your accounts if you're staying at someone's house.
I go through that every year with like Hulu because I get the Black Friday Hulu deal every year. So I have to get a new account generally. Sometimes I can switch back to an old account, but the point is that the algorithm's never really there. But with Netflix, you're right. I have my Netflix account forever, at least 10 years going back. And I don't know. Maybe I should go reset it, Joe. Maybe I should join you on the edge.
You probably have some DVDs tucked away in your house that you don't even know about. That's how old your Netflix account is. And that's how old mine was.
Yeah. Well, now that we've dated ourselves that I can't ski and that we did Netflix DVD by mails, it's not like anybody who watches this show is under the age of 30 anyway. I did want to address something. Our release schedule is a little bit weird this week. We didn't really announce that. We were going to have a show yesterday on Wednesday on New Year's Day, but there was a little mix up with the scheduling. So that's why we're releasing on Thursday. But next week we'll be back with the normal news show and podcast on Monday, news show on Wednesday. So we're going back to the normal schedule. Mark will be back. And that show on Monday, I'm not sure. This is his first time ever coming back after jet lag and a week in Asia. So he's going to be rough. Let's just put it that way.
I feel like he's more equipped for this than most people because I wonder if is he going to come back with his Vegas voice? You know how whenever he comes back from Vegas, he has a raspy voice because when he goes to Vegas, he just like stays up for 72 hours straight or whatever. And when he was going over to Asia and I started seeing his post, I was like, oh, maybe he's going to treat it like he does Vegas and he'll just hair of the dog his way through it like he does life. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the only saving grace is that Singapore, they're quiet, they're refined, so maybe he can't get away with all the screaming, or they'll cane him or something there. I don't know, but I can't wait to hear his take on
Don't you
Singapore. Because Singapore is like Disneyland. That's the way I describe it. It's like a whole city that's Disneyland. It's clean, it's pristine. There's a lot of rules there and stuff like that, but it's a beautiful sort of utopian city. So I can't wait to hear his take because usually his take is the complete opposite of mine.
Yeah, he probably hated it. Let's be real.
If he hates hawker centers or says anything bad about the food, this show will officially be over. But I did want to hear about New York City because last year on the show, we talked about you doing the Rockettes and you went back and did that. And I think you stayed in your beloved Park Hyatt New York, which is your favorite Hyatt. I don't know. How many times have you stayed there now?
It's definitely the like non-Hyatt place that I've stayed the most at. I think this is like our fourth time there. So what happened was normally we go on my birthday, but this year we were in the Poconos and my sister messaged me. My sister really, I guess, was for better or for worse in charge of a lot of this time that we've had in New Jersey. But she messaged me in November and she's like, do you think your kids would want to see the Rockettes? And last year after my wife and I saw the Rockettes, we were like, our kids would like to see this. And I don't think like seeing it 2 years in a row was too much for me, but because my sister was like, oh, we want to go, do you guys want to go, we're like, okay, we'll take them all in. And then this year, because we were in the Poconos over my birthday, I was like, oh, maybe we'll skip our annual New York trip. And last year, if you were listening to the podcast, we stayed at the Thompson because, as you all know, there's the Cat 1 through 7 Hyatt certificates no longer cover the Park Hyatt. And we had used to stay at the Park Hyatt using those Cat 1 to 7 tickets. Anyway, we were going to see Rockettes on December 30th, and I was like, you know what? It's been a long year. We've been working really hard. Yes, it's 45,000 points, but I've earned quite a few high points this year, and I can't take it with me. Let's just live life. And so I booked Park Hyatt for 45,000 points, and I was able to. A couple of weeks ago, I was not able to apply a Suite Upgrade Award, but then last week I checked and it was available, so I added the Suite Upgrade Award to that. And even though it's only one night, my Suite Upgrade Awards are expiring or whatever. So yeah, we went to the Rockettes. It was great because we drove into the city. Because I'm a globalist, I get free valet parking at the Park Hyatt, and so dropped the car off. Drove into the city with the kids from New Jersey. Dropped the car off. Watched the Rockettes, dropped the kids off, sent the kids home with my sister, and she took them back to where they live, and then my parents picked them up from there, and then we spent a night in New York City, which was great, except for checking out on New Year's Eve from Manhattan Midtown. Probably not the best idea.
Yeah, I saw videos of people running in there in the afternoon to be like first in line in Times Square. And I was just thinking, it was still light outside, so it had to be, 4 o'clock, whatever it was. And I was thinking, like, you couldn't pay me to stand on the front of those gates because they have the barriers, and you have 8 million people behind you, and you're stuck there for hours and hours and hours. But when I was young, that was always like a bucket list dream of mine to do Times Square on New Year's Eve. I've done Vegas on New Year's Eve, and I'm not sure I'll ever get to Times Square. But have you ever done that? Have you ever done anything big on New Year's Eve, like a big one of those famous bucket list kind of things?
No, I mean, I lived in Hong Kong for a couple years, and so I do remember one time my grandfather rented. Actually, this might have been for Chinese New Year, because Chinese New Year fireworks are of course bigger. He rented a hotel room that was like overlooking the harbor, and we watched the fireworks from there. This was, the year before he passed away. He was already sick at the time, and so that was a really awesome memory that I really remember. But I've never done any of the big New Year's things. This year is one of the worst years to have done it, because it was, even here in New Jersey, we heard it was like thunder and lightning for like hours before the ball dropped. And I was just thinking about those people. It's not only that you're surrounded by a million people, but there's nowhere to go to the bathroom. I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is urban legend or what, but like apparently some people like bring diapers and things like that. And that is like, I mean, that is not how I want to celebrate the new year. And this is why I was like super stressed getting out on New Year's Eve, because the NYPD was very unclear about like what roads were going to be closed down and stuff. And so they said that there are going to be closures up through 59th Street, and the Park Hyatt's on 57th. And, as a globalist, we have late checkout, and I had checkout till 4 p.m. But what I ended up doing was, because they said closures are going to start seriously at 11 a.m., we just left before 11 a.m. We left like right around 11 a.m. Just because I didn't want to be trapped in New York City. So I would never check out on New Year's Eve again. That was way too stressful, and we didn't get to enjoy ourselves. It was a really nice suite, and would have loved to stay there longer just to relax, but unfortunately had to leave at 11 o'clock. This is another miles and points related thing. The plan was, before we realized we had to leave early, was to, on New Year's Eve, go to Saks Fifth Avenue to use the $50 Saks credit, but Saks didn't open till 11, so we couldn't do it in New York City. So, Shawn, knowing like what we talk about sometimes in like New Jersey, where do you think I might have found a Saks in New Jersey on the way back to my parents' house?
I would say Newark, but I don't think there is a Saks. Is there a Saks in Newark?
It's better than Newark, Shawn. I went to American Dream.
Oh, there you go. Of course. Please. Of course.
Tell the people what American Dream is if they don't know.
American Dream is a monstrosity of a mall that was under construction for about 20 years. It's right next to the Meadowlands in New Jersey, so right next to the big stadium there and the whole complex. And it is an ugly building, but inside there's an amusement park, there's an ice skating rink, there's a ski slope, there's everything like that. But are there a lot of shops open now? Because when I went there, it was before all the shops opened, and then I know obviously the pandemic happened, things happened, and last time I saw there was a decent amount, but still lots of open kind of empty areas.
Shawn, I was shocked, honestly, when I went in there. So this is actually my second time to American Dream. In November, my youngest daughter, for her birthday, really wanted to come visit grandma's house because she loves it here, or they all do love it here. They don't even want to go home. We've been here for like 2 weeks, and so we came down for a long weekend for Veterans Day weekend, and so we actually met my parents at American Dream to just eat at the food court because just due to timing we were like starving, and it was so packed. And I know it's like building into Christmas season and the holiday season and stuff like that, but it was so crowded. And it was full of people. The food court, like we couldn't find a table, and I was like, "Isn't this supposed to be a ghost mall?" I was really shocked because I thought it was maybe a year or two ago we joked about it. After you had gone, like it's supposed to be a dead mall. Like I was imagining those, those big malls in China where there's these huge monstrosities and there's like no shops in them because they were overbuilt. And so American Dream, I don't know if it's busy enough to survive because it's so huge, but I was like, this feels like a functioning mall. And we walked by the Nickelodeon, I think it is, amusement park, and that seemed pretty busy. And so there's a lot of stuff going on. Anyway, New Year's Eve, same thing. Feels like the majority of actually, I would say I didn't really notice any conspicuous slots not full. But then the one funny thing is apparently there's like a rich person wing. And so this main section of the mall, it all feels like a regular mall. And then we were just like following the signs to Saks. And all of a sudden you enter this other wing. It's the D wing. And like all of a sudden all the people clear out. The tile on the floor gets nicer. The chairs that you can sit on seem nicer. And then you're looking at Gucci, Louis Vuitton. Oh, by the way, there's a Louis Vuitton scaffolding in New York City. I sent you a picture. It's pretty cool. Great advertisement to put it on scaffolding. But yeah, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Hermes, all these fancy brands. And then Saks is at the end of that. And there's like no one in there. So apparently there's like a rich person section of the mall. And then there's like a normal person section of the mall. So we went to Saks, spent an hour and 15 minutes trying to find something that was close to $50. Time is money. This really felt like a waste of time. But ultimately got a little sweatsuit for my kid that was $65. That's the same daughter, my youngest daughter. And used that accursed Saks $50 credit, barely, I guess. But at least being at the shop, I know that I don't have to worry about it shipping on time. I know that I got it in December 2024.
You could have just bought a gift card though, and then used it at Saks off Fifth, and bought 2 outfits. I don't know.
Does that still work? I thought
yeah.
that I thought like
Yeah, it does still work. I did it, and I've confirmed the credits happened. So as people, this is another long-term thread of this show, Joe. I'm still saving up gift cards from 5 or 6 years ago, or more specifically, my wife is for something she's going to buy that's bougie at some point. And I don't know how much she has, but it's got to be in the over 1,000 at least.
Hey, that's awesome. I can't believe like I don't go shopping in places like that, and I mean I obviously don't go into the actual stores, but I was looking at some of the stuff, and I would pick up a sweatshirt and it would be like $500, and I was like, how? Like I just don't even understand. I can't comprehend. I know I dress like a slob, but still. One thing to note, first of all, should have texted you and asked about Saks, although it was a nice little adventure and provided a story, which is priceless, of course. But there was they should have labeled it American Express Platinum Credit table. There was a gifts under $50 table. It's all socks, just like 3 pairs of socks. That's
well,
it.
They know that we're coming. And I want to clarify the gift card thing. You have to buy the gift card in store. You cannot buy the gift card online, but you are already in the stores. That's why I said that. But they do know we're coming. I went there with my friend. The cool thing in Vegas is that the Saks is right on the strip. So we just did our like Saturday morning walk that we usually do. And we just walked the strip a little bit, stopped in there. I have 3 platinum cards currently. And so I had 3 of them, and the lady already knew what we were doing. She's just like, oh, you have the American Express. But this lady didn't split it. Usually they'll let me get 1 gift card and they'll split payment 3 different ways, or however many different ways I want to do it. She didn't know how to do that. So I had to end up with 3 different $50 gift cards, which kind of sucked. But yeah, they see us coming. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have a $50 table just for people like us, overpriced socks, like $10 socks that they mark up to $50 just so we can easily use our credits.
Well, they're on to us. So I guess now I know. Then it would have been fun to go to the Saks Fifth Avenue. It was closed when I thought of it. But next year I will plan to buy my $50 gift card at at Saks Fifth Avenue, the original, because Jess was like, going to the American Dream, it's not the same as going to the one on Fifth Ave. It was a cool idea when we were going to go to Fifth Ave, but now it just seems lame, which it kind of was.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the Saks on Fifth Avenue is really cool. We actually did that, I think, 2022. We bought our gift cards at the Saks on Fifth Avenue, went to Rockefeller Center, and it was in the middle of the summer, but they had all these events for kids going on, kind of with FAO Schwartz there. And it was an insane like afternoon for New York. It was fun going to Saks, doing all of that. So the Park Hyatt New York, I've stayed there 3 different times, but it's been a while because you point out it's up to category 8, and I haven't stayed there since then. I used to use my certs all the time. I have stayed in a suite one time there. I really love the rooms. I've never found the service to be particularly good or to what you would expect New York City top level hotel to be. But I don't really care because I love the rooms there, and that location a couple blocks from Central Park is fantastic. So what are your overall takeaways? I'm assuming you enjoyed your stay, but is it still holding up after all these years? How are the rooms?
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, we normally stay in a regular room. Like they always upgrade us to City View or whatever, which just means that you hear traffic. So don't take the City View upgrade is my advice there. The King Suite was really nice. It had a separate living area with like a full couch and stuff like that, king size bed. The bathroom was really good. I love the It's funny. The one bad thing about the Poconos house is that the water pressure was terrible and the water was like a little bit soft too. So I'm not used to soft water. So whenever I'm showering in soft water, like I never feel like I got the soap off of me and stuff like that. But Park Hyatt had superb water pressure, which is, I love, my wife makes fun of me all the time, but like whenever I'm in a hotel room with a nice shower, like any excuse I can come up with to take a shower, it's like, oh, one drop of sweat, I'm gonna go take a shower. I took like 4 showers during like our less than 24 hours there. I find the service, yeah, actually the service is good. It's not over the top, which I prefer. Like, me, I'm more introverted. I don't really want to talk to people. So we did our globalist breakfast, which, man, I can't believe people would spend $150 for what we got for breakfast. I mean, it was a nice spread, but it's not $150 worth of breakfast. And so we got it for room service, which is a really nice benefit so that we could eat it by the window. And so the guy just brought it in, was very polite about it, asked us if we want to take stuff out of the hot box. Back when I didn't, like my first Park Hyatt, I didn't know they had a hot box in the room service thing because Hyatt is the only place where I ever get room service because we can get it for free or whatever. And so that first time, my wife and I are like, "Where are our eggs?" And we couldn't find it, and it was in that hot box. So if you are a rube like me and you don't know, there's a separate box where they keep the hot food. But he's like, "Do you want us to take the food out?" And he did, and he laid it out there. And so we had a really nice breakfast. And so didn't interact with people too much. Front desk was a little bit curt, I would say. I don't know. I'm from New Jersey, so I'm used to people just giving me like the shortest answer possible. But yeah, really love the location. Like you said, it was perfect. It was perfect with the Rockettes, right? Because the Rockettes were like 5 blocks away. And so we're able to take our kids down there. I was a little bummed. Our Rockettes show was at 1. We got to New York City at like 12:10. And the room, like I got the call that the room was ready at 12:50. So I think the kids would have had a lot of fun running around that room for an hour or two before we kicked them out. But ended up not working out. But yeah, I just love the location. I love the Park Hyatt brand in general. And, with service, it's just like, I don't need to talk to people. So as long as their breakfast was really fast, it came up in like 15 minutes. So that's what I want to know.
Yeah, I've always found the service to be adequate. I think they get a lot of VIPs there at that hotel, and they know how to treat the VIPs. And if you're not one, I think you sort of get pushed aside. So you're not getting that top level luxury sort of service there. But again, I love the rooms, the location. And if the price was right, I would stay there more often. Obviously, without the certs, I haven't. Although I haven't been to New York City a ton lately. And the last time I was there, I stayed at the Conrad in Midtown, which was great, which is no longer a Conrad. So, and I think the Waldorf is now on my list. We've talked about it on this show, the Waldorf reopening, all the history there. So I think the next time I go there, I think I want to do the Waldorf and, experience that. I like staying downtown a little bit more as well. So yeah, looking forward to going back to New York. So New Year's Eve, there was a lot that happened in the world in the last 24 hours, including in Las Vegas and in New Orleans. So I just wanted to say Yeah, welcome to 2025. Hoping for the best for everybody. But it is something to be thought about when you're traveling and you're out in public and you're out in crowds and when you're seeing stuff like this happen. And I don't know what the answer is. It's luck of the draw. We're not going to address what actually happened there because we're not in that realm. But as a traveler, I don't know. Over the years, I feel like I've been more aware of the possibility of this happening. When you walk on the Las Vegas Strip, there's bollards everywhere. The entire strip is now covered in bollards to protect pedestrians. We've had incidents like this. And yeah, it's just a different world where you have to think about this when you're out and about in places like New York City or New Orleans or Las Vegas or anywhere. And, just a reminder when you're traveling, situational awareness is important, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the other reason why I'm like not looking for opportunities to be in huge crowds in New Year's Eve anymore. Like the worst experience I ever had in crowds was when in 2014 I was at the World Cup in Brazil and we were actually watching the United States play, but not in the stadium. We were watching at like one of those beach, like they would put up a big screen on the beach. I'm sure they're gonna have. I'm sure they'll have one in Las Vegas in 2026 when the World Cup is here in the U.S. Although maybe it's too hot to do that outside or whatever. But they have these big viewing parties, and the game was over. The U.S. tied Portugal, and then I just remember on the way out, like I had heard the description of like a crush of people before, and I had like envisioned it in my head because it's a well created verb, but like that moment I was just like it's a sea of people moving and I was just my face was in the person in front of me. I mean, it was a bunch of friends and we were all together, but still like that is like the least safe I've ever felt in a crowd, and I can't imagine what it would be like you know just I just never I never would want I can't imagine because I was in there and I never would want to do that again. So I do kind of avoid crowds. And then now of course you throw this mess into it from New Orleans. It's just like I don't know. I wish that we lived in a world where people could just enjoy themselves and not have to think about these things. But unfortunately, we don't. So my condolences to everyone who's been affected the last couple days. I mean, 2025. I think it's been 3 days in a row so far, and it's just I don't know. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, humans can suck. And I think one of the things about travel is that we try to get beyond that and we try to see the good side of humans, culture, whether it's ancient culture and learning about history, or we see what culture is today and how it's different and how we can accept that other people live and believe in different ways. And these are all positive aspects of travel. But when you travel, you see a lot of negativity and the history of humanity and all of that. And you can sort of make the decision to stay home and never go out and see the stuff or to be afraid of things. And, I remember our first backpacking trip in 2007, taking our son to Guatemala and everybody saying, oh my God, Guatemala is so dangerous and all of this. And you go there and you experience it. And the odds of something happening to you are very low, but something could happen to you at home. But the benefits far outweigh that. And sometimes, humanity's messy and it sucks, but to those who want to stay at home or be afraid in that way, I say go out there, learn about the world, learn about other people, because that's exactly the antidote to this type of extremism is learning about other people and accepting them and understanding that your way isn't the only way and that we can all coexist here, even if we don't all believe the same things, and we can respect each other. And this is something that I've seen happen over and over with travelers. I think that's why travelers have a more open mind because I think we're all exposed to people at home who never leave and they don't have any facility to understand, beyond what their own scope is. And that's the biggest thing about travel that it gave me. The biggest gift was that I could say that person lives completely different than me. I don't love that, but it's good. Well, who am I to say it's wrong?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, everyone's trying to do what's best for their families. So yeah, I agree with you. I think definitely want to get out there. And like there are lots of things that you can do to experience different cultures, like Mark did, right? He did. Well, I'm sure it's pretty crowded, but he did New Year's Eve in Bangkok, right? So there are lots of ways to experience these things. I really want to. Speaking of bucket lists, like I do think I would love to do it in Sydney sometime. It just feels like you've done that, right?
So I was going to mention this earlier and I kind of completely got sidetracked. I did it in Melbourne actually, which has a very similar size show to Sydney, but obviously not the bridge. So Sydney has always been on my bucket list. Hong Kong, you mentioned, has always been on my bucket list, but Shanghai has been kind of at the top of my bucket list for it. And this year, I don't know if you saw it, but they did this insane drone slash fireworks show where they had fireworks coming from within the drone area, which is not usual where you see that. But it was this giant dragon flying over the river and in front of the Boon. It was incredible. And then in Japan, I guess they lit off the largest firework ever over Nagasaki. I saw that on Twitter. I didn't confirm that story, but I saw the video of it. But I think it was this year as well. But yeah, all over the world, New Year's Eve is really a bucket list thing. And that's the perfect example of going into another culture, seeing how they celebrate it, and then understanding that we all have these commonalities as humans, New Year's Eve, right? But it's different all over the world. And yeah, it's incredible. It reminds me, talking about that 2008 in China at the opening ceremony to the Olympics, being in this giant viewing party in this park with just us and 8 million Chinese people. And I only say that because there were very few Westerners there, maybe 1,000 Chinese people to one Westerner. So we were there enjoying their party on their terms, and it was amazing. And doing that gets you outside of it. And that's the message. I know this is a weird New Year's week show, and we'll be back to our normal stuff. There's so much crap in this world, and we're all going crazy with social media, and we're all going crazy hating each other. Just stop it and remember that humanity can be beautiful and that we can find all of this. And in the scope of travel and in the scope of this show, yeah, it's there. I mean, I've done it. I don't need to say the theory of it. I've been a lot of places and seen a lot of cool things and met a lot of cool people. And, I said this and I get in trouble when I tell people this in person. Japan's my favorite country. I go there and after a week, I get annoyed by so much. And I love their culture. I love everything about it. I think it's great, but it's not always for me. That's the way we can live in this world, and we don't have to shout each other down and do it. And New Year's reminds us of that because we watch hour by hour as these big cities around the world celebrate the same thing that we are.
I've been trying to plan a Japan trip so badly, and it is tough for a family of 5. We're gonna have to figure that out. But yeah, I totally agree with you. It was nice to see. One thing we did do was my kids didn't stay up this year, but we on YouTube watched, actually my dad, they were I don't know, somehow they convinced my dad to show them the YouTube video of New Year's Eve celebrations at all the places that already happened before us. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
So a couple other quick stories to end. I just wanted to update people on the Rio Hyatt Globalist breakfast. I talked on the MTM Vegas show about it, so I'm not going to talk a ton about it here. Just to say that Rio has sort of backtracked a little bit, and now you almost have the full menu. I know this is such a niche thing, but I know there's people out there who care. A lot of people doing mattress runs for Hyatt status at Rio in Las Vegas. You can see more of it on the MTM Vegas show, but good news there is you're basically getting your benefit back. I did a whole episode on the last episode talking about my stay there and some of the service issues at the front desk and stuff. But yeah, so for those who want to talk about the niche, I feel so weird talking about breakfast at Rio, but it is what it is.
Well, I talked about breakfast at the Park Hyatt New York, but Shawn, what's hilarious to me is I haven't been on the podcast for 2 months. I swear the last time I was on the podcast was when Rio initially took it away. So I feel like I haven't missed a beat. I wasn't here for 2 months and the story has resolved itself. So
it's funny, the VIP check-in staff, they're like, have you been here in a while? I said, no, it's been a few months since I stayed here because I needed a couple nights at the end of the year to get to 60. By the way, that is the first time that has happened in 8 or 9 years that I've had the mattress run at the end of the year for status, which means I need to start reevaluating. We'll see how this year goes for travel, but I don't know. But anyway, they were super excited to tell me that it had come back. So clearly they are hearing a lot of people complaining and they did that. But you can check out the MTM Vegas show. But the other quick thing, Joe, that you kind of alluded to earlier is Disney. You are a Disney travel agent. You are an expert in all things Walt Disney World, really Disney around the world. And Walt Disney World has a special coming up starting today, January 2nd. You can get free dining. Is this really worth it? Because I know in the past it used to be great, but with room rates, is this really a savings for people? And what should they know really quickly if they're interested in this?
Yeah, so Leslie and I on Disney Deciphered, if you don't know who we are, we famously, we don't love the dining plan. It is typically going to be too much food. What will happen is, Shawn, let's say you and I are staying for a 4-night stay and we add the dining plan. It's about $100 per night for each of us. And then that comes with one table service credit, one quick service credit, a snack each day and then a refillable drink mug. What happens is a lot of the restaurants that especially families want to go to, like Cinderella's, they'll cost 2 table service credits. So you're not going to get your money's worth because there's a lot of math involved. I was told that there would be no math, and Mark's not here to make fun of me and not being able to do math. But bottom line is, it usually ends up being too much food. If you drink alcohol, you can make it work a little better, but at best, most people are breaking even, and there's a lot of breakage, right? Because we know in this miles and points game, well, how do these loyalty programs make their money? They make it from a lot of breakage. I mean, we spent 10 minutes talking about my stupid Saks adventure, right? So there's always going to be breakage, and so that's why dining plan usually isn't a good deal. This quote unquote free dining plan, the way it works is you book a regular Disney package with tickets that have to be park hopper, and then they will throw your dining plan in for free. If it's value or moderate resorts, which is the cheaper resorts, you only get the quick service dining plan, which is 2 quick service meals per day, which I don't. It's usually not that worth it to me. And then with deluxe, you get the regular one that also has a table service. The other thing, though, is that Disney released a bunch of just straight up discounts, like hotel discounts at the same time. And so my quick version on this is you have to do the math. You have to really first ask yourself, let's say that we were taking that trip together, you and me. Are we going to sit down and eat 4 times if we didn't have the dining plan?
Wait, Joe, you're inviting me to Disney World with you? Is that
Yes.
That's where we
Yes.
first met in person?
For research. So sweet, so sweet. But are you going to sit down 4 times? Like, that's the first question you need to ask. And then secondly, it's like, is it going to be too much food? Like, sometimes the table service meals are a lot of food, and then that's not worth it. And then if you're not going to sit down 4 times, then is it cheaper to just pay your meals out of pocket and then get the hotel discount? So I was telling Shawn before we started, like, I spent like 3 hours this morning. I woke up at 7 and like just looking at all my clients' reservations, and then I would be like, hey, if you do the dining plan version, it's going to cost you this much, but if you get the hotel discount, then it's going to cost you this much. So you got to ask yourself, would I spend $1,500 on dining if I did? So you got to do a lot of those kinds of questions. Once you do that math, sometimes it works out, but you gotta figure that out. So that's what I say. And then the other rule of thumb is, if you're going to do, like, if you have kids and you want to do a lot of character meals, those are the most expensive. So a lot of times you can make the dining plan work with character meals because they cost like $66 per meal. So that's already, and then with the kids, again, don't worry about the math, but kids cost like $40, but the kids dining plan is just $30 a day. So you're like making money on the kids immediately. So sometimes that works. And then if you drink alcohol with your meals, which I don't, so I don't factor that in, but you get 1 drink per meal. So it could work for someone like Mark, honestly, because he's going to get a drink with every meal. So then that adds to the value. And I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing Mark likes himself a buffet. I like myself a buffet. So
Yeah, they have some good ones on Disney property. The idea of forcing myself to sit down every single day to eat is, we know this is not for me. The dining plan, not for me. Even eating all my meals at the parks, not for me. Maybe when I'm old. That's our plan for Jasmine and I when we're old, is just to go eat at the restaurants at the parks. But I have no desire. Like, there's restaurants I want to go to, and I don't want to take time out of my day to do that. But this is just a reminder why you should probably use a Disney travel agent like Joe. Shameless plug, when you're booking something, because they will go back through and constantly, as they release new discounts, go back through your booking, see what they're going to do. But I wanted to bring this up because it's not always obvious. They advertise all of this stuff and then you don't know what the deal is. And just like everything with Disney World, it's so complicated and you have to make these decisions on what's going to be better or not. My final question, Joe, when is Disney going to rename the value resorts? Because they are no longer a value. There's nothing that's a value at Disney World.
I beg to differ. You can get All-Stars for under $100 a night. I guess that's not value, like value. Like, you get a motel for like $50. But compared to most of the places that people stay, I mean, you have long said, and I agree with you, that like for a deluxe stay, this year Disney has really discounted things because Epic Universe is coming to Universal, and they know that they need to get people in the doors. So I've seen deluxes as low as $400. I know, Shawn, that you personally still would not pay that much for a deluxe because it feels like, that's not a Park Hyatt we're talking about spending $400 a night. It's not a Holiday Inn, but it's like a vanilla Marriott at best.
It's a Holiday Inn these days. If you look at those rooms, Joe, there's not much difference, even in their highest end resorts. Look, Disney doesn't know how to run hotels. I will die on that hill. I have plenty of experience to know that. I just stayed at Universal's Royal Pacific, run by Lowe's, a real hotel company that knows how to run a hotel. It's amazing the difference between the two. That's all I'll say. But, the location, there's reasons to stay in Disney hotels. It's just not the service or the quality of the rooms anymore. Laminate flooring. They put cheap $2 laminate flooring in every one of their $800 a night hotel rooms.
How dare you? Yeah. Anyway, that's fair. But I will say that, yeah, you can get, like, if you're getting under $100 a night with, like, now when you're staying on site again, you get earlier access to Lightning Lane Multipass, which you may not need, but people who are going for their once in a lifetime trip may want for at least one or two of the days. When you're getting All Stars at like $100 a night, I think there is value to be had there. But I agree that in general, the word value, like, they should really name the hotel levels like overpriced. No, it's like deluxes are like exorbitantly priced and then overpriced, and then the value resort should be like sometimes, but not always, fairly priced.
Yeah, I've done them on Priceline in the past and gotten them for cheap. And I do agree with you. Under $100 a night is a great value, and being on property is cool. And I do like the value resorts there. So if you're looking to go to Disney World, you're going to see this offer everywhere. And it's just a reminder that not all these offers are great, and that there's different discounts and things, that there's Disney Deciphered is the place to go. Once you mentioned a Lightning Lane Multipass, I think that means that we jumped the shark for this show, because that's a little bit too in the weeds, and it's nuts. Disney World. I have no desire to go, Joe. They've done it. They've made me a Universal person. I'll go to the Disney parks outside of the country or go down to Disneyland, but they've priced me out finally. So many people, it's just not worth going all the time. But for those that are still there, you're keeping Joe in with a job, so I guess that's good. There's still people doing it.
Thanks for sending my kids to college, everyone. We really appreciate it. I was going to say Disneyland is still pretty great, I would say, and they have through March, like, they have this 50% off kids tickets deals. So at Disneyland. And so I think there's still value to be had at Disneyland, and Disneyland, you do not, like, you can stay off site and you are still like a 10-minute walk away from the parks. Like, I think that is, especially for casuals, superior park in a lot of ways. And so if they lose you in California, then I think all hope is lost for the domestic parks. But I'm glad to see that you'd still go there. You'd still, hold your nose and go there.
The sixth happiest place on earth, down there in Orlando. It's still happy, but it's just not as happy as Paris, Shanghai, Tokyo, Hong Kong, or Anaheim. And with that, Joe, where can people find you when they're not listening to this fine podcast? And how can they contact you if they want more Disney info?
You can find me at As a Joe Flies all over social media. You can check out our Disney podcast, Disney Deciphered. I find that anywhere you find podcasts. And if you're looking to book a trip, usually it's no cost to you. Joseph Cheung at travelmation.net. That's M as in Mary. I'd be happy to help you out and do all the math for you. How about you, Shawn?
That's M as in Mickey. Come on now, Mary. What the heck is that? Next week, we'll be back with our normal Monday podcast with Mark talking all about his trip. And on Wednesday with the news show. A lot of news happening over the holidays, so we'll catch up on all of that next week. You can find everything at milestomemories.com. Check us out on YouTube, MTM Vegas, all of this stuff. If you're listening, you can watch. If you're watching, you can listen. Thanks so much for being there. See ya in 2025.